The World Cup has afforded us a lot of spare time, it has to be said. So, at Hammers Chat, we're scrambling around for ideas, and we got one. It might be an old regurgitated idea, but it's an idea nonetheless. So, we are doing a tier list.
What are you saying it like that for? I love a tier list.
Well, you do love a tier list, but it is still an old regurgitated idea, given a sprinkling of freshness, a little garnish, a little bit of parsley on top, because this tier list is how the players are doing so far this season. So we're going to rank them. That's rank them. Thank you. Very disgraceful, you lot. We're going to rank them. Have they been crap? Have they been brilliant? Or do you barely recognise them and wonder who they are, like Maxwell Cornet? He'd get his own little section, I'm quite sure. We're separating this into 4 sections to milk it for all it's worth. First section is today on this channel. Second section is tomorrow over on the main Hammers Chat channel. Then we're back here. Then we're going back there. It's all very... Don't worry. Enjoy. Geo, take us forward, my friend.
Shall we start ranking off some West Ham players?
Oh, absolutely. Give them a crafty reach around.
Here you go. So here is the tier list first of all. So at the top tier, we've got Hammer of the Year contender. The ones that have really performed so far this season. Under that, we've got been decent. They've been all right. You know, they played pretty well. Then we've got all right, bang average. Underneath that, we've got quite poor. And at the very bottom, we've got very poor. You'll notice, you'll see Vlasic and Masuaku on there. We won't be doing them. It's just that I created this tier list months ago, and I don't know how you delete just one player. So we're stuck with them. They're just going to remain there for the duration of the series. So, Gonzo, without further ado, we've got Kurt Zouma up first. Where would you like to put him?
I think Kurt's been decent.
I agree with that. I think that's a nice, easy start for us.
Yeah, let's be perfectly honest here. He's carrying an injury. He's playing through it. He's put let's say past misdemeanors behind him, and he seems to be feline okay now. Can we do that too soon?
Yeah, that's fine. You're okay.
I was you were worried I was going to do the other word for cat. I won't.
What, pussy?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that one. So anyway, I think he's done remarkably well. He's definitely carried an injury. The one of the most best performances I've seen for some years from a West Ham centre-back was by Zouma against Man U. I've got that right. Was it Man U? Yeah. Really, really good. And I think there was certainly a suggestion from my cynical co-host over there that he maybe have stepped up his game the moment the Gert became available for selection. But I like it. He's been pretty damn good, Gio.
Yeah, I completely agree. He's been unfit pretty much all season. Even pre-season, he was unfit. So he's definitely playing through the pain barrier. You can see it. Some games more than others. I think there's some games where he doesn't look injured, but you know he is when you're watching him. Then there's other games it's far more obvious where he's limping around pretty early on in the match as well. And whenever he does one of those last-ditch challenges or blocks, I do panic a little bit because one of them is going to finish him off. One of them he's going to do it. He's going to get up and think, oh, no, I can't. And his knee's going to buckle or something. So yeah. I do think there's an element of a ticking time bomb with him in regards to his injuries. But with Aguerd coming back, it's been a little bit of a debate, if you like. Who's going to partner Aguerd? Is it Dawson? Is it Zouma? And I think over the last few weeks, I think we've got an obvious answer, and it is Kurt Zouma. I think he's had a good season so far, a strong season from Kurt. I'm very happy with what I've seen. So moving on, next up, we've got Vladimir Coufal, Gonzo, and I think he's got to go in one of the bottom 3. I think if you're being generous, he goes in all right. At best, where would you like to put him? What are you looking around for?
We play a ratings book. I've misplaced it. The man cave's a bit messy at the moment. You can't see that. It all looks lovely. Above here, lovely. Down below, it's like a teenager's bedroom, basically. But
sounds like your Tinder profile.
Absolutely. Yeah. Up here, not so good. Anyway. That's thrown me slightly. What are we talking about? Vladimir Coufal. He's the reason I was looking for the book was because in the book it tells a story of a player that's played well in Europe, basically, and not every game he's played well, but his 3 best performances have all been in the Conference League. When he's played in the Premier League, he's not been so good, Gio. It has to be said. Very poor, possibly not, because you deserve a little bit of credit for doing well, in the European games. But let's put him one off the bottom there in quite poor. I think it's not been great. And to be honest with you, I think we need to be looking at pastures new.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, actually, because I don't think he's been dreadful. I think there's worse performers than him so far this season. But at the same time, the reality is he's possibly our third choice right back at the time of speaking. Kerr's definitely ahead of him in the pecking order. And there's an argument that Ben Johnson is as well. We don't actually know yet until, say, Kerr's unavailable for a game and who Moyes opts for. But with speculation that we're going to sell him in the January transfer window, you believe that speculation because of his contract situation, but also because of his form. If he was playing well, you would say, oh, no, he's not going anywhere. He'll get a new deal. We'll give him a new contract. But there's not many people saying that. Majority of people are saying, yes, cash in on him while we can. That implies he's been pretty poor this season. He's still been a really good signing for us for $5 million. I think he was incredible one season, pretty poor the next, and he's continued to be pretty poor, unfortunately. But, in terms of his work ethic and stuff, I think he's really good. I think elements of his game still really strong. I think defensively, I think he's pretty solid. It's just that we are trying to change the way we play, and that probably puts a bit more focus on the offensive play from fullback. I'm not sure he's up to scratch. So I agree with you. Conference League, he's been Ham of the Year contender. Premier League has been very poor, but generally overall, I agree with you. Let's put him in quite poor. Now, moving on to the next player. We have got Craig Dawson, possibly a difficult one to grade, actually.
Well, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to throw it out there. I think he's been quite poor. And I mean that by his own high standards. I'm a Craig Dawson fan. I really am. But the stuff that I think he does well, he's not been doing so well. Hampered by injury, it has to be said.
Obviously, hampered by Thilo Kehrer at right back.
Yeah, you could. Well, you did say that. You could say that. You actually did say it. He came back from injury and scored a goal, which was nice to score a rare set piece goal for us. But I don't think he's been very good this season. At his best, he is a thou shall not pass. He's got massive leadership qualities. He actually has sometimes some really good long ball distribution from the back. He's dominant in both boxes. I've just not seen that level of play from him. Now, there could be any number of mitigating factors for that. Some of them fitness, some of them maybe personal issues and homesickness and whatnot, not being near his family. So whatever the factors are, playing in a crap team as well, let's not put that, and obviously next to Thilo Kehrer, as Geo alluded to, many reasons, but it doesn't matter. He's still not been very good as far as I'm concerned.
He's actually a player I would expect to excel under the current set of tactics that we're playing, just like he has done for the previous couple of seasons, where there's going to be lots of opportunities to block, to just throw yourself in the way, head out the box. We're going to sit deep so that his lack of pace doesn't necessarily get exposed too often. So actually, he's someone I think the system still suits, and there's almost no excuses for him struggling. I think we can make excuses for other players struggling this season, and we will do. But Craig Dawson, I'm not buying that. I'm not having that the system doesn't fit him. I think it fits him perfectly fine, almost too good to some extent, because I'd rather move away from there. But I agree with you. I put him in quite poor straight away. I agree with you. I remember at the start of the season, he was injured. He came back and he was really, really good. But I don't know if it was because he was really, really good or we were just desperate for something. And he came in, defence tightened up for a little bit. Then he was injured again. He's come back. And since he has come back, he's been dreadful. Like, really poor. Poor against Leicester City. Poor against Crystal Palace. At fault for conceding the first goal to Zaha as well. It's not been a great time for Craig Dawson this season. I'm almost to some extent going to allow it because bar handing in a transfer request, it sounds like he did everything he possibly could to leave West Ham this summer and made it very clear early on. We got told before the season even finished, Craig Dawson wants to leave in the summer. He wants to go back up north. So by the sounds of it, he's had conversations behind closed doors very ages ago. Last season, when he was playing well last season, he's had those conversations. Said, Gaffer, I need to go back up north. And actually, I feel there's a large part of me that feels really sorry for him, actually, because he hasn't been granted that move. And I think he deserves to have been granted that move. There's clubs wanting to buy him, pay money for him. Unfortunately, the situation as it was, we weren't able to get another centre-back in. The injury to Aguerd as well would have caused a lot of conversations and confusion. Issa Diop probably been a bit more extreme than Craig Dawson in regards to wanting to leave. You know, he was in France at one point when we had a game Diop, and there was talk that he was just over there. He did it unprofessionally, but he got what he wanted. Whereas Dawson has done everything proper, and he's still at the club.
He's really thinking, "Oi, it was me that wanted to leave."
Yeah. So next time a player kicks off about leaving and does things that we don't necessarily agree with as a fan base, Dawson and Diop show you why. Because the one that kicks up a stink gets the move. The one that actually says, "Oh, go on then, I'll stick around," and now we're paying for it. Really. Moving on, we have got Ivan Cresswell.
Oh, he's been decent. Geo.
Hammer of the Year contender for me. I mean, you're going to have to fight about this then.
Well, not really. It's not like one of us is saying very poor and Hammer of the Year contender. I think he's, I mean, he's up the top, isn't he? Yeah, he's mate, there should be more Hammer of the Year contenders.
Yes, by the way, I agree with that, okay? I think there's a few players that should be embarrassed that are not in that category. And if anything, they should be embarrassed that a 32-year-old left-back is in that category. But for me, you can't have just one or two Hammer of the Year contenders. You've got to have 4 or 5. And Cresswell's one of the best top 4 or 5 performers for me this season.
Yeah, I'm a little bit harsher than Ruthless. You. See. Oh, I am.
The war's already won.
I'd scrap the bloody thing, quite frankly. You know, you hear the managers scrapped the Christmas party. You hear that sometimes. That's me, right? That's me, right? I'm. You know, sometimes we do shows and
we scrap hammered the match, don't we?
I'm not doing it. I refuse. There's no champagne for it. I'm drinking it myself. I feel that with this one. Cresswell has had some really good games, and we've been charting every game and every player rating this season with a view to doing our own Hammer of the Year. And we over on Patreon do our player rating, so we have data. We've got our own records of how we think they've played, and Cresswell's right up there. I tell you that now, right up there. But it comes down, and he's been decent, by the way. He's barely made any mistakes. Maybe possibly in the Maddison one, but aside from that, hardly any. Compared to everybody else, he's made minimal mistakes. But it comes down to it, and it comes down to that phrase that I sort of hate, particularly at international level. He's never let anyone down. Okay, and that's fine. And Aaron Cresswell's a bit like that. But to win Hammer of the Year, it's not about a case of, not letting anyone down. I want to see somebody excel. And I think I've got in my mind that Declan Rice, who, is obviously another contender, or whatever, Skamaka scores 20 goals and wins Hammer of the Year. Do you know what I mean? Something like that. But a really good season for Cresswell. I'd say, well, he's set really high standards in recent years. Defying the age, really. I think he's really good. And he's got a new deal, right? He signed a new contract.
It's been extended. The clause has been triggered. So there's no new deal person. There's no negotiation. It's like, tough luck. You're staying for another year. It's about like Craig Dawson, really. Don't care if you want to or not. We're extending it. I'm going to put him in being decent category because I know I am in the minority as to how high I rate Aaron Cresswell in comparison to our subscribers that regularly comment. So I'm willing to concede that. I think he's had a really good season. Out of all our new signings, he is the only one that's kept the new signing out of the team. Aguerd's come in, Downs has come in, Cornet came in before he got injured, Skamaka's come in. Every new signing's come into the starting team except Emerson because of Aaron Cresswell. And that's got to count for something. He's keeping a £13 million signing. Now, whether you're happy with Emerson or not as a signing isn't really my point here. My point is we invested £13 million on a new left back and he can't get in the team ahead of the 32-year-old Aaron Cresswell. And I think that's a compliment to Aaron, but I think it's also a slight outlook on how good or how not so good Emerson is, really. But tells a story, that does. And so I think he's having a really good season. And if he continues what he's doing and the rest continue what they're doing, I think he'll be runner-up. I think he'll be runner-up for Ham of the Year. I think there is 3 other easy contenders for me, and I think Cresswell's in that 4. There's 4 standouts for me this season. Cresswell's one of them. Moving on to our second last player of this video, Flynn Downs.
I think he's been decent, Geo. I really do. I think outstanding performances in Europe. Then he gets given the Sam Allardyce treatment in the league. But the Sam Allardyce Nottingham Forest treatment, which is basically let's throw some people in a position they don't normally play and watch them sink. So I think he's done okay. Look, he's not a right-sided midfielder. He's done all right. And I'll tell you what, and here's the thing, I will use the phrase that I don't like, he let anyone down. All right, he didn't. When he played right side midfield, didn't let anyone down. All right, when he played attacking midfield, he didn't let anyone down. And I think that is really, really important. When he plays central midfield, he excels. So that's fine. And he'll do a job elsewhere. 9 million, whatever he costs. Yeah, I think he's been a decent signing.
I think he should go in all right, Gonzo. I think to go into that other category, I don't think has he been as good as Cresswell and Zouma this season. I don't think he has. I don't think he can go in the same category as them. I am aware of what you always say, which is the manager hasn't given him opportunities and stuff. But that's why I think he should only go in all right, because he's not broke into the centre midfield in the Premier League yet. He's been getting shoehorned into other positions. Again, I don't necessarily agree with the decision, but when he has played those Premier League games in that role, I think he's looked okay. He hasn't excelled. He hasn't looked fantastic. He's been good at best. Now, I expect more to come from him. I expect if we do this at the end of the season, I will be inclined to push Flynn Downs up, and I hope that is very much the case. But right now, I think he's been all right and just all right. I think at the minute, I think we are seeing what we have bought, and that is it, which is a £9 million defensive midfielder from Swansea. I think in the European games, he's been brilliant, but to put the Conference League into some form of context, I've just seen a 16-year-old rip it up against the Romanian team for West Ham. A guy that's never featured in first team turned up for West Ham, all his scars, and was brilliant. I know that you always say, but it was a dead rubber, so on and so forth. But Flynn Downs played well in that game too. Flynn Downs played in the same game, and Scars arguably looked just as good as him. So I'm going to make an argument with you. He should go in all right.
All right.
Do you concede?
I don't mind. Honestly, I don't. I would never argue. When there's only one category between them, I don't think it's a big argument.
I think it goes in there. Harrison Ashby.
Oh, this is a controversial one. The
reason I've included Harrison Ashby, right, is because this is where you've got to take into consideration what you've seen, but also I think you've got to take into consideration expectation for the season. And I think that's why Coufal's in quite poor instead of very poor, because we probably expected Coufal to struggle a little bit. That's why, Downs is where he is. And this is why I think Ashby is probably, for me, going to be quite poor, because I expected more from him. Again, it comes down to the manager.
Yes,
but I just expected a bit more from Harrison Ashby this season. I expect to see more of him.
Yeah, well, yes, and you're right. That's not his fault. That's the manager's fault. So, I think I'd have to agree with your assessment there in terms of what I was looking forward to seeing and what I've seen. Yeah, it's quite poor. I mean, when he did play, he didn't even start that game, did he? The one you're alluding to, where Scholes played well. But when he did, I thought he was excellent when he did eventually make it onto the pitch. So, there's a disappointment as well from my own point of view, because I can't think of too many. He must have had 2 or 3 individual videos on this channel itself. That's how impressed. I don't tend to do that. Look at young players. Oh well, start raving about them. But I really like him. I think it's some personal disappointment from me, and I'd like to have seen.
What do you mean you don't rave about players? Bugger off. I could go back on this channel. I could find Elise, Sonny Perkins, Martin Samuelson.
Not individual. You're forgetting Nathan Holland. No, but not individual. Not individual players with their own video. Do you know what I mean? Where I've seen this player play, and I've done.
Is that like the highest Gonzo award you can get?
I think it is. I think. Do you get your own video where I sit in my shed, telling the world that I think he's a good player? I say, or the 300 people watching. But I think he's really good. So I think there's some personal disappointment there. I do blame David Moyes. I was hopeful. We've got that in us, haven't we, as West Ham fans? We want to see these players come through. We want to see academy guys do it. And when you see one that you think actually he's pretty damn talented, and it doesn't happen, then it is disappointing. Well, there you go. That is the end of our first round of basically allocating players into what we think. We've got 2 that have been decent. We've got an all right, and we've got 3 quite poor, which means you will have to tune into tomorrow's video over on the main channel to find out if we can start populating the very top tier or the very bottom one.